Listening to community, working with community, that's what we're working on. It's going to be 4 lanes. And for people who say we've already got 4 lanes, it's 4 lanes in 21st century lanes, not 4 lanes of the 1930s, where they were obviously much narrower. These are going to be wider and so safer and much more efficient. So a truck won't be able to take 2 lanes. It'll be using 1 lane, so much safer. And when the time comes, if the time comes, it can be expanded to 6.
Hey everyone, welcome to Darpan Dialogue. The City of Surrey is the fastest growing city in the province and is set to overtake Vancouver by 2041 as the biggest city. Now, transportation is certainly a concern as to how people will get around the city. So whether it be the Massey Tunnel replacement project, whether it be a new Pattullo Bridge, ride-hailing, or a SkyTrain line, there are definitely concerns as to what transportation looks like for the future of the region. Now, we reached out to the Minister of Transportation, Trevena, to get her thoughts on all these different issues. Let's welcome into the program Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure, Trevena. Minister, most welcome to the program. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, thank you for taking the time with us. Transportation is certainly a huge need for the region, with Surrey growing at the speed that it is. Now, when we talk about the George Massey Tunnel, the BC NDP government scrapped the 10-lane bridge, which was put forward to connect Richmond to Delta by the previous government. And now here we are 3 years later. So what exactly is going on with the Massey Tunnel at this point in time? How far along are we?
Well, we are far along in getting a replacement. Okay. We're going to be having a business case in by the fall on the crossing of choice. We're very pleased that we have unanimity among the mayors, and this is something the previous government didn't have, and which was going to the community and saying what was needed. And mayors at the time said that a 10-lane bridge was too big. It was too big for the growth plan. Now the mayors have come back and said, yeah, we do need an 8-lane crossing. We'd like to have an 8-lane tunnel. So we're doing final consultation. We're still talking to the public. We're talking to Indigenous communities, and we'll have a decision later this spring, and moving along with a business case. So very excited. I know that people want a solution right now.
Yes.
They're fed up of being stuck in traffic.
Yes.
We're doing some interim work. We're going to be doing some relief of congestion in the short term, and looking forward to having a crossing that really works for everyone in the region and is a reflection of what the region has asked for in the coming years. What is being designed is it's forward-looking. It's going to be available to switch to light rail if that's what comes in the future, but it can be used immediately for transit, for bus transit. And some of our interim improvements that people will see in the short term are focused on transit, are focused on getting people the option of not having to be in their cars and using transit.
So when we talk about the Pattullo Bridge, which is another crossing that's used by a lot of people south of the Fraser, and it's a very busy one, and there has been an announcement that construction will take place as of this year, and then completion for 2023 for a 4-lane new Pattullo Bridge. A lot of people on social media were kind of talking as to why replacing the previous 4-lane bridge now with another 4-lane bridge, why not a 6-lane bridge? Because there was talk of having designated lanes for cyclists and pedestrians prior to that conversation.
Again, it's something that we're very excited.
Right.
Moving along with the Pattullo Bridge. It's long overdue. It was
yes.
high on the mayor's list for many years, and our government decided that this is a priority to move on with it. And because it was a mayor's part of the Translink infrastructure, it came from the Mayor's Council, and they said very clearly, unanimously in fact, 4 lanes. 4 lanes that can be expanded to 6 when necessary. And so again, listening to community, working with community, that's what we're working on. It's going to be 4 lanes. And for people who say we've already got 4 lanes, it's 4 lanes in 21st century lanes, not 4 lanes of the 1930s, where they were obviously much narrower. These are going to be wider and so safer and much more efficient. So a truck won't be able to take 2 lanes. It'll be using 1 lane, so much safer. And when the time comes, if the time comes, it can be expanded to 6.
All right, and has there been consultation with the engineers in terms of, the 4-lane will ease congestion in terms of traffic and there will be better flow?
Oh, there absolutely will be, because it's 4 lanes working as 4 lanes. There's going to be improvements to some of the on-ramps and so forth, so access to the bridge, but it will absolutely ease flow. It'll be a safer crossing. It'll be a free crossing. We are making sure that none of our crossings, whether it's Massey or Pattullo or any of the crossings across the river, people have to pay tolls on them. So free crossing, much more efficient, and I think in 2023 people will be very pleased with what's happened there.
So, yes, transit's been definitely a big concern in Surrey. Expansion of the SkyTrain line from King George to Fleetwood to, taking it all the way to Langley. But then that's been a bit iffy with the funding. There's been talk by the Mayor of Vancouver, Kennedy Stewart, about expanding his Broadway line all the way to UBC's Point Grey campus. There's been talk of a gondola up SFU Burnaby, which I think is so needed with the snow. So what's happening with those projects in terms of the funding? Where are we at there?
Well, our government committed to investing 40% in capital funding for the Mayor's vision, and that's what we're doing. That's why we are investing in the extension of the Broadway line up to Arbutus initially. That's why we're investing in the work that Surrey wants. It's the shift in plan to having a SkyTrain now rather than LRT. It's got to go back to Treasury Board, but we have committed that we're going to be spending 40% on the 40% of the Mayor's vision, and so we are committed to that. And as they move on to the next stage, we'll be talking to the mayors and about how they are evolving that. But for these stages, we're absolutely committed to 40% funding.
Okay, well, that's great to hear. Ride-hailing certainly has been a big one, the taxi versus Uber debate. And, the taxi drivers accuse the NDP government of breaking their promise of not having a level playing field. Now, I know that you've released an insurance product for part-time drivers, which is huge in relation to leveling the playing field. But what about, rates and the number of cars and boundaries? There's certainly been concern there. So how would you like to address that to taxi drivers?
Well, we've been very clear in making sure that it is fair. When we've been introducing ride hail, we made sure that there is, on safety levels, that all drivers, whether you're driving a taxi or a ride hail, you've got to have your class 4. There's got to be national safety code. Everybody's got to follow that. There's got to be very strict criminal record checks. So making sure that we are dealing as much as possible with fairness. As you say, the ICBC new rate that will be available from May 1st, I think, will really help with that. Boundaries, we hear the calls for changing boundaries. It's divisive within the taxi industry. Some want to keep boundaries, some want to get rid of them. That, in the end, is a decision for the Passenger Transportation Board. They are aware of this real desire from some to get rid of them, and they've said that when they get more data from ride hail and taxi, as the whole shift in our transportation sector evolves in the next few months, they'll be looking at what they should do with boundaries.
All right. Well, and just one final question. What are we looking at in terms of sustainable transportation projects for the region south of the Fraser?
Well, one of the things I'm very excited about that was in our budget is looking at the Fraser Valley as a whole, integrated transportation, looking at how we're going to evolve transportation for this real vibrant and growing region. We know how important Surrey and south of the Fraser is. So we're looking at how we can ensure that we get transportation systems and development goes ahead in a way that makes sense for the region. So looking at both the road systems, rail systems, bus systems, how we can integrate that and how development, housing and commerce also works into that. So it's a very exciting project. It was announced in the budget, and I'm looking forward to get my teeth into that in the coming months and years.
Well, sounds very exciting. Thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.